Hello, BookTube. We're continuing with my 2023 library tour. We're moving our way up this bookcase. It's going to be fine. And we've got another shelf of books here with no cross-stacked books at all. So this should be easier. And our first one is by Joe Hutto. This is Illumination in the Flatwoods. I cannot recommend this book strongly enough. Of course, that stays true for most of the books in this room. But this is amazing. The author decides to acclimate himself with a group of wild turkeys. This is not a case where he finds one in a landfill as a chick and raises it, and he's a beloved figure in the neighborhood and whatnot, a quasi-comical figure in the neighborhood. He goes into the woods and acclimates himself with a group of wild turkeys. They're living in the wild there, and they know him, they recognize him, and they stop hiding from him. Not only their physical whereabouts, but also what they're doing and when they're doing it. And so he starts to learn what they're all about. And the book is amazing. It is full of not only drawings, but also there's an inset of photos. And it's really well done. It's really, really well written. It's really engaging natural history. But the big takeaway lesson at the end of the book, if you want to, give it such a parochial thing, is incredible, which is that if this is true for turkeys, what Joe Hutto finds is a vibrant, complicated, nuanced society full of individuals who make friends and have enemies and little irritations and good days and bad days and senses of humor and a sense of curiosity. Very much not just feathered automatons walking through the woods pecking mindlessly at the ground. Very much not that. And this is not anything special. There is not anything special about this one group. So the implication that you come to at the end of this book is that maybe that's the whole of the natural world, which certainly puts Thanksgiving in a different light. I absolutely loved it. I missed it. I don't think this is not the format that it originally came out in. I missed this when it first came out. The book came out in 1995. I don't think it looked like this when it first did, but I very glad that I have it. I absolutely love it. Okay, this next one is also nature. This is significantly less cuddly. This, I think, came out right before we started talking to each other. Well, May 2016. So right around the time when I started this channel. It still has a pub sheet in it. This is America's Snake by Ted Levin. It's the advanced copy. I've never seen a finished copy of this thing. I'll find it in a used bookstore, I'm sure. I want a finished copy of it because this is really, really good. It's a snake book, and it's a natural history, a full-blown natural history. We've seen this on this channel many times before, where somebody decides to plunk down with a species of some kind or other and give a full-dress natural history of them. So their behaviors, their physiology, their evolution, and also their interactions with humans throughout the record of history. And Levin decides to do that for timber rattler snakes. Timber rattlers are big, girthy, thick, intelligent, malicious, extremely venomous vipers in the United States. They are what you're thinking of if you think of a rattlesnake. And he decides to examine them, take you into their world. I have been in their world more times than I want to be. I've been bitten by timber rattlers many, many times. Sometimes impossible to avoid because their camouflage is so good. Their camouflage is perfect. If one of them doesn't make itself known to you, you're not going to see it. Even if you're right on top of it, you're not going to see it. And they can be big. They can be 5 or 6 feet long. And if they're still in torpor, if it's a cool morning and they're not alive and alert, you could easily step on one without wanting to and without it knowing that you're there or being able to do anything about it. And often in the heat of the day, when they are active and very much know you're there, they're hunting. Not for you, but they're hunting for something. And if they're hunting for something, they're not going to use their famous rattle. The rattle is to warn people. and to stake out territory and to signal aggression or alarm. If they're hunting, they're not going to use that. And so I guess what I'm trying to say is there are many ways to get bitten by these things, and that's just accidentally. They are aggressive animals, so they will bite you just because they feel like it. And that element is, of course, downplayed in this book, but it's still fantastic. It's fantastic natural history. I don't need, like I mentioned, I don't need to like, if I'm reading a literary biography, in other words, a biography of the reception and history of a book, I don't need to like the book to like the book about the book. Same thing is true with natural history. Same thing is true, actually, with biographies. I don't need to like the person, and also I don't need to know anything about the person's world. I've read many a sports biography that I absolutely loved when I couldn't tell you anything about the sport. So, I think we should all be that way. I think we should all be that way. It helps, it enhances the adventure of reading if you are that way, instead of being parochial or, own side. And this next one is a nature book as well. This is just delightful. This is, of course, this is connected for me with a bunch of happy memories. I have a long stories I could tell you over wine and calzones here at Hyde Cottage. This was from, it actually has the pub sheet in it. This was from February of 2017, and this is by Bill Shutt, and it's called Cannibalism, a perfectly natural history. This is the story of cannibalism in the natural world, which humans automatically associate with a soccer team down in the Andes or the Donner Party. But in other words, as an absolutely horrific, even unholy aberration of the normal order of things. And what Shutt is trying to point out here is that for most animals in the animal kingdom, babies of their own species are the easiest source of protein imaginable. Especially if you're something like a frog or a fish or a crab, where you're producing great clouds of the next generation. They're coming out in huge clouds. It's unlikely that you're going to pass that up. And that's all this author does, right? This book is just give you example after example after example of cannibalism in the natural world. So back in 2017, this was, of course, a tough sell in terms of pitching this to reviewers or to editors. It was a tough sell because humans naturally think of this thing as the subject as cursed, when it isn't. It's gross and it's unfortunate, but it isn't cursed. And it's all through the animal kingdom. It's not just, hematodes and crabs and whatnot. It's all through the animal kingdom. Okay, then we have, this is going to be fairly fast. That's good. Then we have a bunch of anthology volumes that I believe they are the same block of typeset. They are the same text. And that text gets sold and resold all over the place to many different houses under many different names. It's still the same thing. And they are those big anthologies of 3 or 4 or 5 works by the same author. Now, Avenel Press did a huge library of these things, and I love them. I'm always on the lookout for them. I only have a couple, but the point I'm trying to make is that these things reappeared under other publishing imprints. They're the same text. It's the same block. It's the same product that is just going to pick up and be sold to somebody else to be repackaged. So I have a bunch of Avenels. I found Dashiell Hammett, 5 complete novels. I just love these things. You often find them at yard sales. They're not collectible in any way. I think they're really neat. This one, of course, I had to get because of the cover. I was contractually obligated. But this is all of Dash Hammett's novels all in one place. That makes it easy. Most authors don't make it that easy. Like, for instance, Helen McInnes is fantastic. She is an absolutely wonderful international thriller, spy, caper kind of writer. Elevated the genre to a height of adult complexity and readability, the quality of the prose that has hardly been equaled since, has never been surpassed. And I found a volume of hers with 4. This is also this says Octopus Heinemann, but it's actually Avenel, or the same thing. It's the same text that Avenel would use. This is what have we got here? The Salzburg Connection, Assignment in Brittany, Double Image, and her famous book Agent in Place. It was wonderful to see this thing. I grab them all whenever I can. Then we have P.G. Wodehouse, of course, was another perfect example an author where you could do 10 of these volumes and you wouldn't scratch the surface of all that the author wrote. This is five complete books. This is The Return of Jeeves, Bertie Wooster Sees It Through, Spring Fever, The Butler Did It, and Old Reliable. Now this is an Avenel, and that is the cover illustration. The Avenels always had original cover illustrations, usually. That is not how I picture Jeeves. I picture Jeeves as much younger than that. But only a couple of stories in there are Bertie Wooster and his omniscient valet, Jeeves. Then we have an Avenel volume of Tarzan of the Apes, which it reprints classic pulp art instead of commissioning its own cover. And this is 4 volumes in one. So this is exactly what I'm talking about. This is the Avenel volume of Tarzan that has Tarzan of the Apes, Son of Tarzan, Tarzan at the Earth's Core, and Tarzan Triumphant. And that is all of those old, basically Avenel volumes that I have. I want more. I see them all the time, but I've only recently really become at peace with myself about how much I enjoy them. So when I see them, I will grab them. The John le Carré one, for instance, I've seen many times. I'm sure I will see it again. Then we have another. This is very much along the same lines. This is, I believe, the publisher. Who is this? Galahad Books. Taking a block of the product, just as you've seen with Octopus Heinemann or Avenel or whoever, and gussying it up, giving it a better look. But it's still the same product. If Avenel were to do this, they would use the same block of text. It would be the same selections. In this case, Louis Auchincloss. And here we have his famous book, The Rector of Justin, and then 2 others, The House of the Five Talents and Portrait in Brownstone, which is really, really good. And see, this looks much nicer than the others, but it's the same thing. Let's leave this out so that we can let's see here. So Sunday emergency, but there is no emergency. Keep in mind, it's just somebody thinking it'd be a lot more convenient when I'm microwaving my chili dogs if I put the microwave on the bedspread. why do I have to reach all the way across the room when I can just put it on the bed? Surely there's nothing wrong with that. That's all. That's all it is. Then we have a couple of anthologies. So to finish this out. So this is a shelf full of nature and anthologies. First one is this big thing from Penguin. This is the Penguin Book of Irish Fiction, edited by Colm Tóibín. Big, fat thing with tons and tons of stuff in it, including tons and tons, I don't know if you can make this out, tons and tons of my own insertions. Because whenever the New York Review of Books or the New York Times or London Review of Books or whatever, whenever they run an inevitable long meditation on the nature of those wacky Irish and the fact that they keep producing world-class literature, those essays are usually worth rereading. They're usually worth keeping, but I don't usually have a volume of the author, the specific authors that they might be about, so I just put them in here. I just put them in here where I know where to find them. That's my whole new philosophy of saving book reviews. My own profession is, for years and years, I had big metal filing cabinets, and I would pull out these book reviews, date them. They were already annotated because I annotated them, over lunch, and then I would file them year by year. I never went back to those files at all. Never at all. Because it was always too much trouble and too much bother. And then I hit upon the idea, take the reviews that you're saving, annotate them, clean them up, fold them, date them, and put them where you're going to want to find them, where you're going to look. Put them in the book. Don't bother. You like finding them in books, so just put them in the book. And it has been a wonder. And it has occasioned catch-all things like that. Like, for instance, if somebody, let's say the New York Review of Books, were to do a condescending think piece about Edgar Rice Burroughs today, inevitably written by some Gen Z loser who couldn't write their way out of a wet paper bag and has not 1/100th of Edgar Rice Burroughs' narrative talent. Let's say the New York Review of Books commissioned such a piece, or New York Magazine commissioned such a piece. They easily could in 2023. And I read it and thought it was insufferable, but maybe made a couple of good points. I would save it and I would put it in this Avenel Edgar Rice Burroughs volume. Or I would put it, I have the, what's-his-name's 2-volume, what's-his-name's big biography of Edgar Rice Burroughs. But unlike a lot of people, Michael K. Vaughan, Mark Richardson, who have the the big, what's his name? I'm forgetting his name now. This is amazing because I've read that book so many times. I'm forgetting his name, but there's a sort of seminal Edgar Rice Burroughs biography, and it was originally issued in an oversized, over-wide hardcover, suitable for all the illustrations that are in it. The illustrations are incredible. And then when that hardcover was reprinted, it was reprinted in 2 trade paperbacks. They split it up into 2 volumes. And I have those 2 trade paperbacks, but there's no way you could put stuff in them. Their binding is already on its last legs, so there's no way I could do that. So I would use this Avenel volume. There's no reason to have any other Edgar Rice Burroughs biography than that one. So I would use this one to put in things like that. And the same thing with all of these. And then the last anthology is this. This is edited by David Levitt and Mark Mitchell, and this is the Penguin book of gay short stories, which is I go back to it all the time. It's one of the only gay anthologies that I have kept. I've had plenty of them over time, but they can be a bit samey and also a bit preachy, and also, I hate to say it about my gay brethren, a bit catty. It's a common thing that when you get it, at least in the olden days, in the 90s and early 2000s, if you got a brief to do a gay anthology, too many times the person who got the brief to be the editor of that anthology would kind of reflexively view it as a way to score on their enemies. And that's never going to make a good anthology. And this one, I don't know if they actually thought that way, but it turned out really good either way, no matter how. I wonder what their philosophy was on it. And there you go. That is this shelf, Nature and Big Fat Anthologies. So we're going to move on to the next one. I'm kind of hoping with the next one that you can bear with me looking up like this, because one of these shelves I'm going to have to get on a step stool for. I'd rather keep it to just one. so the next one, I think I can leave the camera right where I am and just pull things down from up there. So that's what I'm going to try to do. But in the meantime, that is it. That is it for today, and I will wrap this up, and I will be back. Thank you, BookTube.